Hi, David. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Very good. Over here in sunny Spain, Barcelona.
Wow, that's good to hear. So around here, it's a bit chilly here in Nairobi, Kenya. I guess the weather is good.
In the next 4 or 5 weeks, I'm going to be landing in Tanzania.
Oh, great. We look forward. I hope you'll be passing by Nairobi, Kenya.
Definitely so.
Looking forward to seeing you. But maybe, Micky, we can start by, you introducing yourself and tell us who you are.
Sure, I'm Micky Watkins. I'm a telecom guy through and through. I've been in the industry for the last 20 years. I have most recently been working on a solution that is going to connect the unconnected in a way that nobody else has done so far, and that's called World Mobile.
I can start, this discussion with a quote, I think from you, where you say, before you bank the unbanked, you need to connect the unconnected. So maybe tell us a bit about that statement and what it means.
There's 3 billion people on this planet that are unbanked. This means they don't have a traditional way to be able to keep their money, grow their money, spend their money, or even in fact use their money. Most of their money is held by them and is deflationary. We know in the Western world, in this side of the world, in the world that we're connected, that having access to banks and services that allow us to grow is really essential. And internet is we couldn't have this telephone call or this video call without internet. So, to really bank the unbanked, first of all, you've got to connect the unconnected. And that's what we're doing.
Again, I know that World Mobile, you've obviously been operational in East Africa for quite some time, but recently you announced a partnership with IOHK and Cardano. Maybe you can also tell us a bit about that.
So we've been working with IOHK since late 2018. We were there with them in Miami to do the workshops in 2019. And we've been developing a solution that is to cooperate together to do the best of what we can do as individuals, a very symbiotic relationship. They've built a blockchain infrastructure and a financial system that is capable of carrying trillions of dollars for the unbanked world, for the bottom people that don't have the same level of services and tools as everybody else. But of course, to make this happen, you've got to have internet. So I met with Charles. We had a great talk. A few weeks later, John was in Tanzania, and the rest is history. We've been developing a solution ever since to create a sharing economy, digital identity platform, and a blockchain system that will allow us to open up a new world for the people that don't have it, and an even better world than we have right now, where actually the person's data belongs to them, where there's economic freedom of choice, the things that we don't have, that we've given up in this world, the connected world, in the quest for connectivity. So, we're doing 2 great things here. One, we're connecting the unconnected, but 2, once they're connected, we're giving them the ability to own their own data. It's a new relationship between mobile network operator / ISP and the customer. As of now, right now, you don't own your own data, nor do I. This is recorded. We don't have any transparency where they go, where these calls go, who's listening to these calls, who's looking at these calls. There's no way to show us. And with blockchain, with self-data governance, with digital identity, it's a beginning of a new era where we are the value to the network as customers. So we should be respected and we should own our own data. So we pay for the service.
I know, and I've heard you, speak severally about the issue of owning your own data and privacy concerns, which is obviously a big issue today, especially with the fact that the current networks already own this data, so we don't own it. So just diving a bit into that, you launched a token that is looking to solve some of these problems and issues. Maybe you can also talk to us about that.
Well, within our blockchain ecosystem, we've created, we haven't, but some of the founders of Delphi, 01 Capital and IOHK, with input from economists, have created a bunch of tokenomics that are able to operate in a new world. There is currently an ongoing token generation event that World Mobile Token BVI is launching in order to kickstart the sharing economy. And that's when we will release the initial nodes, which are the Earth nodes into the network. You can find more about the information on our official Telegram and also on the worldmobiletoken.com website.
I also like another comment that is quite popular where you talk about forget DeFi welcome to RealFi. What do you mean by that?
Okay, don't forget DeFi, because DeFi is a really important evolution that's left over from the 2017 shockwaves of the ICO scams, right? And the people that lost so much money. So DeFi was a really important evolution, but you need to make it sustainable. And right now, it seems that in DeFi, there's a lot of Ponzi-nomics too. And the system is there to make the first people who are there the fastest with the largest amount to stake. They're the ones that are winning. And again, the small guys aren't. So, what we're looking at is actually delivering from liquidity pools with IOHK and Cardano and our legal teams and other companies in the space. We're looking to deliver actual top-up loans via the digital ID with permission, leveraging that from the user in order to be able to provide them a top-up loan. Then instead of costing them 30 to 50% a month in interest, only costs several percents, and that's a really viable option for mass adoption. On the other side of the water, you've got people that are staking in liquidity pools that are not getting unrealistic figures, but actually real sustainable figures. And earning 5 to 6% a month is unheard of from a bank. It's very, very rare. But yet it's possible to bridge two worlds, where on one side you've got people that are putting their money up, via a liquidity pool. On the other side, you've got a regulated system that is providing top-up loans. That's just one example, of course, but top-up loans to end users who are paying magnitudes less for the commission, and both sides are really happy. So this is what we consider RealFi. It's the evolution from crypto held to something that's going to affect people on the ground.
Talking about having a real influence or effect on the ground, we are based here in Nairobi, Kenya. Obviously, we know the challenges that exist, especially one of the problems you're solving, the issue of connectedness. Now with the token, I understand that it's going to do a lot more, in terms of offering, things like digital IDs and the services that, revolve around that. Maybe you can break that down a bit for us as well.
Let me give a history of mesh networks throughout the African continent. There has, people have tried. They've delivered mesh networks on the ground. They've delivered connectivity. You look at Facebook, Microsoft, Google. They've delivered connectivity to really rural areas. But there's one key missing ingredient. It's less about the tokens, right? The tokens are there to facilitate a sharing economy. The tokens are there to. What we're doing is distributing telecommunications infrastructure via a new economic model, and the tokens are the key to starting that engine for your Earth node or for your Air node. But in order for the token system to even work, the tokenomics to work, you've got to have the demand. So the demand is huge right now, right? And there's been many solutions to connect unconnected areas that have been done by big tech companies and small people, but yet still 3.5 billion people unconnected. Why is this? So it's the infrastructure, right? If you bring the internet, but you bring the internet without digital identity or without a way to identify the user, 3 billion people are without a bank because they don't have identity, mostly, right? So you change this. Now once you pre-qualify people with identity, and over time, you're now creating essentially a place where people can come in and they can access insurance services, financial services, all types of services to enhance their life. And that's where the real difference is between us, I guess, and everybody else. And our approach to it is, this is about allowing people to grow, and you need to give them the tools to grow. And internet alone isn't the tool to grow. It's a combination of tools that's going to change unlock the biggest gig economy in the world, which is the continent of Africa right now.
Now, I've also heard you say that East Africa, where you're obviously operational, is setting the pace for this evolution. I mean,
sure.
How do you see that? How is East Africa setting the pace for the world?
Okay, many things. So our local partners and co-founder RJ, he's on the ground out there, and he has been working with Microsoft TV Whitespace as their preferred partner rollout. He's rolled out hundreds, thousands of schools with solar and connectivity. So I've always felt like this region has been one that's pushing for connectivity. Now you've got most recently the president, who has said, we're urging the government to look, and the central banks to look at blockchain, and they're taking it very seriously. So I think, you've seen what's happened in Uganda over the last few years. There's been quite a movement there of blockchain. So now, we've chosen this as our place where the people are the most receptive, where the demand is the highest, where they need it. And Zanzibar is our first choice to set the pace. This is going to be an incredible, huge proof of concept that if it works, which we think it will, it's a combination of free space optics, TV white space, a combination of fiber networks, balloons, kites, and connecting even to low Earth orbiting satellites. But if we can create this agile network in Zanzibar, which represents on Pemba, for example, there's lots of unconnected. You've got the populated areas in Stone Town. It's a nice ecosystem for us to roll out our network. And the Zanzibarian government are very in favor of us, and the Zanzibarian people want us to come and to reduce the cost of telecommunications and to provide connectivity where there wasn't. This is where the world will first see the sixth generation, not 6G, not like 4G, 5G, but the sixth generation of telecommunications, which is a much more agile network that's dynamic, that can be deployed for certain scenarios, and a new template to creating this. So Africa is really perceptive and encouraging the continent. Everywhere we speak, every government we speak to, they say, okay, we do have so many unconnected, we do have so many unbanked, we'll try everything, approach us with what you need. We'll speak to our regulators. We have our own regulation team. And so far, no opposition. So far, it's, everything makes sense. We're not going after the existing markets. We're not treading on anybody's toes. We're going after the places where the people need it the most, the unconnected regions. So I think actually East Africa is setting the pace for the rest of the world, because you look at Australia. I just saw an article this morning that was sent over from my team. People are having to set up their offices on the side of the road because they haven't got any good quality internet at their houses that hasn't been delivered. In America, you've got Starlink as an example. People are desperate. There's 500,000 people on the waiting list for Starlink because they don't have. So it's not just Africa that's unconnected. It's the whole world. Half the world's unconnected. But Africa's setting the pace. They're doing something about it. They're encouraging the growth. They've skipped the chains that are on us in this world. And now they're ready to try new things, and this is really nice to see. And Africa is going to explode, and the growth is going to be incredible.
That's quite positive to hear. I mean, for someone who lives in East Africa, this is quite encouraging. And I have to say this, obviously, East Africa set the pace for mobile money, and we saw what happened and the ecosystem that was built out of that. Now we're getting into the blockchain space. Obviously, a lot of things are happening. Despite the challenges on the continent, there's still a lot of movement there. But again, you mentioned about government and regulation. How do you see? Yes, I mean, how do you see regulation playing out? It's a big challenge, obviously, in Africa, especially when now you start introducing things like tokens and cryptocurrencies. From your experience so far, I know you've talked about being receptive and governments being receptive, but can you dive a bit into that? Do you see these, playing out well? Do you expect, some restrictions or limitations from government?
Okay, so when I say receptive, I mean, we've been working for 3 years to explain what we want to do, how we're going to do it. So governments themselves, ultimately, if you leave the complexities out and you explain what you're doing as a solution, they're for it. Once you start, saying, look, well, I want to have a crypto token that's non-regulated in the country, then you're doomed immediately, right? So you have to work with them. So for example, right now, in Zanzibar and Tanzania, people will be able to buy the World Mobile Voucher token. Not yet, but when they will be able to, they won't be going to pay for it in a cryptocurrency. That just doesn't make any sense at all. They'll be going to pay for it in a local currency. It will be a stabilized currency. It will be pegged to the local regulation, whatever we need to conform to. But later down the line, maybe as those governments realize the efficiencies of cryptocurrencies, the transparencies of cryptocurrencies, they're not scared about what the tax evasion potential or going into the wrong hands. I believe the governments will change. But as World Mobile, our job is not to come in and make our job hard. Our job is to come in and connect as many people as possible, as quick as possible. So we're leaving out all those complex parts. People who operate Earth nodes can use tokens from anywhere they want around the world. But locally, where we have to have air nodes, as an example, we may not be able to initially be able to work in a way that we'd like to. But eventually we'll be able to federate those out to the communities as well and create a sharing economy for the air nodes, and anybody around the world will be able to own those air nodes. And we're working hard with the Tanzanian government and with regulators and to write policies and frameworks. And this is the hardest part. The hardest part is not laying down the infrastructure. Everybody's done that already. They've shown they can do that. We know that we can connect to Wi-Fi. We know that we can connect to fiber. The hardest part is writing the frameworks and the policies and getting it right. And then the next hardest part is once you've got that acceptance, which we are on, we've got that now. You've now got to show that you can build this mobile network. And then once that mobile network works, once those frameworks are in place, it's very easy for the next government to say, okay, so that's your precedent. So it worked over there. How many people did you connect? What did you do? You show them, and regulators ultimately, they're very hard, they're very strong, and they have to be, because mobile network operators push them around, and they need to have the strong hand. Mobile network operators generate huge amounts of income for a government. So a regulator has to rule with an iron fist, because typically they're foreign entities coming into a country, and they need to make sure that they're bringing back value to the country. That's the regulator's job, right? So when you come to the regulator and you say, I want a mobile network operator license, you say, oh, okay, this is, and then you start to explain what you're going to be doing and which areas you're targeting. All of a sudden you melt the hearts, just like you melted our heart. You say, okay, we're going to connect the unconnected. They say, okay, we'll back you in any way we possibly can, because this is important for the growth of our country, for our continent, for the world as one. This is the most critical thing. So we're working as close as we possibly can. We take advice and guidance and follow the rules of all the regulation, because we want mass adoption. And the mass adoption of blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies will not come from platforms that are not regulated. So, and regulated doesn't mean it doesn't need to be transparent. Regulated means you need to conform with the government and their set of rules, and for good reason as well.
Well said, well said. Talking about World Mobile and the World Mobile Token, moving forward in terms of execution and your plans for the future. You're working with Cardano. Cardano has big plans for Africa, obviously. Do you mind giving us a sort of a breakdown of what we can expect in the next few months, few years, moving forward with?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So very exciting. The last 3 years have been we're not like other companies in the blockchain space. We've put our own skills, resources, and finances behind the different proof of concepts for the last 3 years that allow us now to go for a full commercial rollout. So Zanzibar is going to be a controlled, quite a slow rollout. We're going to be getting 100 to 200,000 people on by the end of this year onto the network. And then we're going to be starting to kickstart the local sharing economy on the ground with their nodes. In the middle of next year, I expect to be in Tanzania. Conservatively, I would think that we have anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million users on the network. Optimistically, I think, using legacy spectrums with modern infrastructure, I think we have a way to be able to have a lot of concurrency, a lot of people connected to our networks. So using traditional spectrums, like I said, and hybrid spectrums. So optimistically, I think we can get to 10 million, 15 million in the region between Kenya, Zanzibar, and Tanzania, and become a leader in the space within the next year and a half.
Maybe as we close, I like this comment that you once put out. You said, the sharing economy is the incentive that is needed to connect the unconnected. How true is that? Or what does that?
There's still 3.5 billion people unconnected, right?
Yeah.
Google, $1 trillion company, $1 trillion. It's a lot of money, $1 trillion, right? You can do a lot with $1 trillion. They spent over $1 billion, or close to $1 billion. Don't quote me on that. You can do the research yourself, but certainly hundreds of millions annually in Kenya, working with the Loon project, right? They still couldn't do it, and it wasn't sustainable. It's not for money that this problem exists. It's for the lack of sharing. When you share a problem, you halve that problem. This is a common saying, but actually in reality, the hardest thing for mobile network operators is to cover the last mile. So if you're in very well, in built up areas in Kenya, it's fine. The traffic sources are good, the roads are good, the communities are good. You go out to the bush, you go out to the areas where it's very rural, and the roads all of a sudden start a 40-kilometer journey can take you forever, and you've got to go off road. And so it's very hard for a mobile network operator to, first of all, power their existing legacy infrastructure because it's very, very heavy to power it. So you've got to put diesel generators out there. If you've got to put diesel generators out there, you've got to have a source of diesel. You've got to have someone delivering diesel. And, you know, and then sometimes, you know, that stuff, you wake up in the morning, it's not there because there's a huge problem with theft all around the world when something isn't valued by the people. Now flip it on its head, and you put the people in the village responsible for the infrastructure. The infrastructure doesn't need diesel power, it just needs solar. It has second life batteries. You let the people in the village, whoever it is, an individual, a group of people, cooperative farmers, whoever are owning this particular infrastructure, this node, you let them earn from it, and you push a majority of the revenue to them. All of a sudden, this becomes another viable business. This becomes like livestock. It becomes like crop. It becomes like a fishing boat. It becomes like a pub. It's something where they pay for, they host, whilst it's up and it's working, they're earning money from it. Why are they going to let it go down? You know as well as me, just because Africa isn't connected doesn't mean people are not entrepreneurs. In fact, quite the opposite. Under the worst conditions, they've managed to survive and become entrepreneurs and business people. It's just a matter of providing them with the tools. So an air node is a tool that provides power to a village, you know, street light to a village, connectivity and identity to a village. This transforms a village. This transforms a town. This transforms a local economy. Because in these rural areas, it's very hard. You don't have stable power. You don't have connectivity. You don't have a way to onboard yourself to an identity platform. You don't have a way to browse affordable internet or to even charge your device. In most cases, you might have a home solar system, but this is not going to charge, you know, too much of your devices. And if you're a family, it's complex, very difficult situation. So the sharing economy, we've created this air node system that connects to our backhaul. So we go up and we set the backhaul system up throughout the country, and then we allow people to connect to the backhaul. So I'd say that World Mobile, you know, takes around 60%, 70% of the load of the network, and then the rest is intended for the sharing economy to have it, and also the revenue. So $60 billion or more is the telecommunications market in the African continent right now. That's without digital identity and without all the things that it brings, right? And that's with most of sub-Saharan Africa, 80% is unconnected, at least. So yeah, this is an interesting thing, the sharing economy. And it's the only thing that we need to get right. You get this right and it explodes because it's the people's network, they earn from it. In the rest of the world, it's you know, $3.5 trillion. And again, without identity, without these value-added services, without a new approach to the relationship with mobile network operator and provider. So yes, it is the sharing economy. It's not just money alone. It's about sharing with the people and making, you know, them who host the network, they who host the network get paid for hosting the network. And there's a lot of money to be paid.
Here in East Africa, we have that motto. It's called Harambe. So where people work together to achieve a goal, they save together and they do things together to move forward. So it's actually great to hear that World Mobile has the same kind of a mindset. We've talked so much. Where can people find more information about, you know, World Mobile and the World Mobile token, obviously?
Worldmobile.io. You can come to our website. You can find our partners at World Mobile Token BVI at worldmobiletoken.com as well. Thank you very much
for speaking to us, Micky. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye. Cheers.